Today, I'd like to take another look at using compact flash and SD cards as a potential replacement for original Xboxes. It should be noted from the start that the context where this might be useful is rather limited. Standard CF media can't be locked. Soft-modded Xboxes require a locked hard drive to boot, so you'll need a hard-modded or TSOP-flashed Xbox. While there are lockable Type 2 CF-based hard drives that might work in a soft-modded Xbox, they are much more the exception than the rule. As far as I'm aware, the biggest CF-based hard drives are 8 gig, and they've been out of production for ages. Additionally, brand new, high-quality CF cards are much more expensive than hard drives or even SSDs. Average prices currently hover around $1 a gig, with 32 gig CF cards easily rivaling the price of brand new 250 gig SSDs at 1 to 2 terabyte hard drives. With all that in mind, however, there is a silver lining. While big hard drives are very cheap, the upgrade requires a few extra parts that can easily double or triple the cost, especially depending on the level of quality that you go for. In addition to a new hard drive, you'll need an 80-pin IDE cable and an IDE to SATA adapter. If you want to spend as little money as possible doing this, you can buy a generic adapter and an 80-pin IDE cable for about $20 to $25 after taxes and shipping. This will work fine, but you will have to learn the art of folding ribbon cables in unorthodox ways to get perfect clearance inside the case. That can take a surprising amount of time and effort to get right, especially with shorter 18-inch cables. 18-inch cables fit, but they are extremely tight. For a few extra dollars, you can get an 80-pin IDE cable cut perfectly to length for the original Xbox, and all you'll need to do with it then is mimic the folds of the original cable. When it comes to adapters, some people much prefer the overall feel and rigid build quality of StarTech adapters. They do their job well, and they have a very precision feel to them, but they cost about 3 to 4 times as much as a generic adapter on average. If you're looking for a good balance between cheap and premium, I recommend buying a generic adapter and spending a few extra dollars on a custom cut IDE cable. In summary, the more money you spend up front, the easier the upgrade is, and assuming you buy all new parts, the upgrade will cost roughly $50 to $100. This is where compact flash comes into play as a potentially affordable alternative. High-quality CF to IDE adapters with activity lights and jumpers can be had for under $15, and all the CF cards I've tested up to this point have worked effortlessly with the stock IDE cable. If you have some CF cards laying around already, or maybe you have an Xbox with a dead hard drive and don't necessarily care about having more storage space than it came with from factory, CF cards might be a reasonably affordable alternative for you. For now at least, brand new 8 and 16 gig CF cards can be found for under $25 and used ones for under $10. If your goal is to spend as little money as possible, this storage upgrade could be done for under $20. Okay, so I'm going to TSOP-flash this 1.0 Xbox here. It's very clean. Looks great. I'm not sure what chip it has, but I am going to do a TSOP mod on this. Bridge those points together. Maybe run a wire if it's a Sharp BIOS. First, I'm just going to do a power on. This Xbox has already been soft modded. Just to make sure that everything goes smoothly when I boot Hexen, I'm going to use a version A Samsung drive. They're probably one of the most reliable drives. And I'm going to test the game out. Just do Halo, keep it really basic. This drive's already been greased, got a new drive belt, clean laser. Does it read? Yes, it does. Let's just load Halo quick, make sure everything works as it's supposed to. Yeah, it looks like Halo's loading off the disk immediately. Alright, so this works. I'm going to take Halo out of the DVD drive. Got True Hexen 2020. Turn it off. Now Hexen's in the DVD drive. I know it works. I know it loads. Let's disassemble this. I already took out the other extra steps, basically. A lot of the screws are out, and that saves a good amount of time. I don't think we need any more YouTube tutorials on how to disassemble an Xbox. I guess everybody has their own method for taking this daughter board and the eject cable out. I like to take this daughter board out first before I go for any other wires in here, just because the way this sits, the way there's these two sockets here, they do have a certain tendency to flex, especially if the Xbox is disassembled and then put back together, and whoever did it had some trouble with bays and putting them back in and getting them to line up with all these holes in here. This one over here, basically every corner of the board, and then some in the middle. And the play, if there's any play in here, and it comes down at an angle, specifically on 1.0 Xbox boards, it can exert some pressure on this, and it can cause the board to warp. The daughter board to warp, excuse me. That pressure can cause the daughter board to warp. And then you're in this spot where you put it all back together, and the daughter board looks fine, but then maybe none of the controller ports work, or maybe only like controller port 1 and controller port 3 or 2 and 4. Because I think 1 and 3 are on, it's like 1 and 3, 2 and 4, and they're in rows, and depending on which way the board's sitting, either 1 and 3 will make contact, or 2 and 4, but not both at the same time. And of course, with a 4-player system, it is nice to be able to use all the controller ports. What do you think? All the controller ports at the same time. There we go. There we are. Let's take a look at the board. There we go. There's still a little bit of a remnant of the old capacitor pin in there too. Sometimes when the capacitor starts leaking, the damage, a lot of the times people emphasize the damage on the underside of the board for the power and eject circuit on the other side here. But a lot of the times, if you look right in the general area here around the capacitor, there's going to be a lot of corrosion on all of these solder points here. And this here, C6G6, this in particular, this capacitor seems to be like a magnet for the corrosion. And this in here as well. It seems to kind of flow down this way, and then this little metal barrier here. It acts as a stopgap. However, if you look a little closer, let's see. Do we have corrosion? I'd say that's a little bit of leftover corrosion. But everything past this point, everything past about here on the board, and even the capacitors immediately around the clock cap, except for this one here, it's a little green. I'm going very gently with this pick here, and it's just coming right off. So it's like just basically in this tiny area here. It's like a best case scenario. Sometimes damage can go much deeper. So let's just look at this board quick. I'm not going to change the heat sinks, or clean up the heat sinks and do a thermal change. Because just for perspective, I have, let's see, here's 9. It's 13, 14, 15. There's at least, there's probably at least 18 Xboxes in here. Really looks just like Xbox. So, enough rambling. Let's do a top overview look at the board, just to show how nice and clean it is. As far as I'm aware, it still has all of its original capacitors. I didn't replace them. I don't remember if the system was open before I got it. Everything looks real nice and clean and healthy. Let's take a look at the eject and power circuit. This is the underside of where the clock capacitor was. And if, of course, the biggest problem that people run into from the capacitor leaking out and getting on the other side of the board is it erodes these traces down here. The bottom two are directly connected to the power circuit and the eject button. And when they go, that's when you get shorts where you plug the Xbox in and then it just ejects the tray. Maybe pressing the eject button turns the console off. Maybe pressing the power button doesn't do anything at all, or maybe it shuts it off and then immediately turns it back on again. Right above this 7 marker, still quite a bit of corrosion. It's not really bad, but it could certainly be better. So it looks like we lucked out here. We just have to do a normal TSOP-flash. So if you have some mild soldering experience, a TSOP-flash is a very straightforward hard mod. It saves quite a bit of soldering compared to a mod chip. Got to bridge these 2 points here, right past R7D3. Got to bridge R7R3 too. I've got some soldering flux. Really don't need a lot. So I'm just going to kiss this a little bit, not even making contact with the scooper itself. Got a reasonably decent amount of flux on there. I'm going to flux the other side of the board when we get to the other side of the board. Alright. Got my soldering iron on. I got the tip tin just a little bit. I just need to clean it up a little bit. That's looking a little cleaner. looks pretty well bridged to me. Really don't need a lot of flux. That's good enough. I'm going to tin the tip of my iron again. Let's get a little bit of solder on there. And a little bit more. Let's make sure these are nice and flowed. That looks pretty healthy to me. Just gonna heat it up a little bit more. Okay, I like that. Let's take a look. There's our 7R3. We'll flip this board right over. Like so. And let's look for, there it is. It's R7D3. All of its glory. Clean R7D3 off a little bit more. Looks to me like that bridged well. Yeah, I'd say that's on there pretty good. Flux is your best friend. You know, it's better to go overkill than not put enough flux on and do some kind of heavy damage or, you know, burn pads or something. Let's just do a continuity check with the multimeter. Alright, here we go. So, here's our 7D3. Goes here. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna run R7D3 from this end and put just a little bit of pressure with my left hand up against the point and go to this via here. Very low resistance. Looks good to me. See these screws? It's hard to tell from this camera angle, but this screw is just a little more of a fine pitch. The gap between each thread is a little bit smaller than this one. Here I thought all these screws were universal. Let's see what we can do about flashing this BIOS here. It's good to be patient with Hexen. Definitely takes an extra minute to load. Red light. Oh, let's go in here. Okay, here we are. This BIOS flashing menu. This is a 1.0, so we could go with the 512K BIOS. This would probably be a really good Xbox to do a 128 MB RAM upgrade on. Just for safety's sake, I'm going to flash it with the 256K BIOS. And I'm going to give this Evox with F and G. And we'll see what happens. Looks like we're making headway. Let's see what we get. Yeah, there it is. Evox. Now we can install a CF card in this. And the beautiful thing about doing that is it's very compact. So, first off, let's check the jumpers. All the jumpers look good. Alright, there we go. This was already nulled to 1s. This hard drive here. So it should work fine with in fact, actually let's do a test here. I already set up a hard drive on this. Nice looking industrial grade compact flash card. So since this is unlocked now, it should be unlocked at least. Should be able to boot in. I need this hard drive. Let's see what happens. What I'm going to do is turn this on. Eject this. And there we go. So this compact flash card was written using a 1.0 Xbox with the counterfeit Aladdin in it. The counterfeit Aladdin I couldn't flash the BIOS with, but it did bring back an Xbox that had a dead hard drive. So I'm pretty happy with that. This was the first compact flash card that I tested out with the adapter, and it just ran great. So figured, hey, keep going. I like it. Now, that's great. Next question is, this one works. How about we try a solution like this? I have a bunch of these adapters. Some of them are for microSD, some of them are dualies, some of them are full. We're kind of doing a setup here where it's, you've got a card in an adapter, in an adapter, in an adapter. This is the power of X, right? This exhibit would be proud. And I think he put his fair share of Xboxes and things too. All that aside, should stress, microSD really is not ideal for this. Xbox takes hard drives, and if you get, like a 1 terabyte drive, it really isn't that expensive. Just, put a bigger hard drive or an SSD in this. Additionally, Xbox doesn't have any kind of trim function, so for solid state media like this, it's not exactly ideal. At the same time, this is a WesternDigital Purple microSD card. And these say they are for heavy duty use, constant writes, constant access, and data integrity. So it's like it's trying to parlay the strengths of a mechanical hard drive to a microSD card. and especially for older devices, Windows 9X computers, things that, I guess it's kind of a gray area where if you're running, I don't know, DOS 6 or something that's very, very basic and it doesn't have a lot of read writes to a hard drive, you know, a regular SD card, in fact, something like a 4 gig SD card here. I just have a bunch of these cable company ones. This would work great. Once you get into like Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows XP, try to use SD media. At least traditional SD media is not recommended. However, not every microSD card is a WesternDigital Purple. I like WesternDigital Purple hard drives. I think they're the only hard drive that has a faster write speed than read speed, at least in the Western Digital, market right now. It's a little unusual. If you've had hard drives fail, burn out, you want to make sure that data integrity is first and foremost. And purples are still kind of affordable, where Western Digital Reds and anything to do with like NOS drives, they're pricey. I'm gonna put this on here, just keep it safe, make sure we don't cause any shorts. I actually tried this same exact config already. I tried it in a different Xbox. So when we boot into Hexen, it should detect the drive, see a green light access. So this is just an SDHC card. A, Y, B, X. So, here we're back at this menu again. It is writing. Let's format it. It's looking good. Hey, this is gonna work. This is gonna work. Wait a minute. Our activity light is a solid green. Xbox. Ah, alright. Alright, we're still in for the count. Granted, it is a little slow, but this is looking pretty good so far. Just gonna let this sit. Now, if this is reading a 32 gig SD card, and it's going a little slow, when I use compact flash, this is very quick. Very, very quick. So I want to test out performance. I want to see how a 32 gig, specifically a UDMA 7 32 gig Transcend card, one of these. I want to see how one of these stacks up against these 32 gig SD cards. These work very quick. Compact flash has the same kind of issue that SD cards do, where it's solid state technology that's great to fit into IDE interfaces, but a lot of stuff that uses IDE interfaces runs software that doesn't have the trim command or functionality. So if you're using something kind of in between a very basic like DOS, Windows 3.1, and something that has trim like Windows 7 or Windows 8, then you might have some trouble. But these compact flash cards are pretty much like the final generation of parallel ATA ones. They were designed more specifically for use in cameras, camcorders, heavy duty, constantly rolling, constantly capturing video. And, they held their own in camcorders in 2006, recording video and stuff. Then they should have no problem running in an Xbox. Of course, compact flash is really expensive, so it's really more of like, if you have an old camera around, if you have compact flash cards around already, this whole setup here would only cost like $12. You don't even need to change out the IDE cable. I'm gonna let this go. I'll check back when it's done. Alright, so here's XP Partitioner, and because we only have a 32 gig SD card in here, you can pretty much just leave all this alone. In the event that XP Partitioner might screw up somehow, just keep an eye out for the free space. 0 of about 30 gig. That looks good. So press start, Y, and back, and then any button. Yes. Awesome.